Sorry, I went to the bathroom too.
All good. I'm still tweaking this technology here, so just bear with me. Hello, good morning, everybody. This is Grace Harris on Grace Harris, author and transformational coach. You are watching Women Unleashed, creating intergenerational transformation. This morning for me in Australia, and this afternoon, all the way back in Arizona for Amanda, we are talking to you about the power of miracle healing. I have my guest with me today, a very special guest from Phoenix, Arizona, as I said. We're talking about the power of healing, and it's a story that is really heartfelt because us women, we are always, most of the time, we have the nurturing nature, whether or not we are moms or we might be grandmas, aunties, sisters. And so, this innate nature of wanting to take care of other people is the seed of miracle and was for Amanda. We're going to go through that in a moment. But what I want to do first of all is I want to set the intention that if you are listening to this live, let us know. If you are listening to this in the future in replay, let us know also. And to keep your heart and your mind open. There may be questions during this series, this one, the past one, and the next ones that may be confronting for you. But stay with us. Stay with us, because my intention is that we would be able to collectively pull together our strength and forces as women who have gone through trauma and adversity and use the power of our experiences so that we can create transformation, not just in our lives right now, but in the lives of our children, their children, our grandchildren, and everyone else in the future. And so today we are going to tackle the miracle of healing, and my guest here, Amanda Rumore. Amanda, you're here with me. She's a speaker and an author and a good news and publicity expert as well. Hello, welcome. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's amazing to have you. I'm so grateful because I have had some amazing, amazing women join me in this series. And today, I cannot wait to get started. Now, Amanda, you fell 40 feet from an energy vortex in the Red Rocks of Sedona. Now, Sedona, I believe, I've not been there, but I've heard of it to be a really popular place to access your higher powers and to be one with your higher consciousness. So please tell us, what were you doing there, and tell us about the fall.
So we were there. We were at this amazing resort, and I was actually a guest. I wrote for the Huffington Post at the time, so I was there as a media guest. I was writing about my experience. So my husband and my daughter, who at that point was 4, we went there, and we had been to the resort. We had done the hikes. We had already experienced it, but it was just another experience. And so on our last day, we went on a hike that we had done exactly a year before. I climbed up the same energy vortex I had been at before, and my daughter and my husband watched as I did it. And my daughter was 4, so I showed her some yoga poses on top. I just wanted her to see how amazing it was, how beautiful. And then climbing down, I lost my footing, and my head hit those 40 feet of those beautiful red rocks. So I was left on the bottom, unconscious, bloody, broken. my husband is retired military, so he knew how to triage me as he fought with 911. They were not going to send a helicopter. But he was like, you have to. So it was a fight with my daughter crying, at his leg. She's been able to tell me since, like, she thought I died. So it was just horrific. An ambulance came to take me to the helicopter because they couldn't get in the mountains, where I flew to the first hospital I was in. And there I was for about 2 weeks, and I had a traumatic brain injury, and so I don't have any memories from that first hospital, but I do remember, no, not remember, I do know that I told anybody who listened that both of my grandmothers saved my life, and they were deceased. Um, Not too long, as of recent they were, but that their bodies wrapped around me to save me. And still looking at the science, like, that makes sense to me, and that is what I believe.
Mm.
My husband said I wasn't moving for, I don't know, a few days, I think. And he played, I love Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac. He put the Fleetwood Mac song, Fleetwood Mac station on his phone. And that's when I started wiggling my toes. And so from there, doctors knew I had some type of movement going to happen. He took a video of me learning how to walk. And if you saw it, I clearly did not know who I was or the date or anything. I look like not Amanda, but I see the nursing staff teaching me how to walk, and it is so heartbreaking. But I was there for about 2 weeks, where they transferred me to a local hospital in Scottsdale. And so that I remember leaving. And I remember my mom being in the ambulance with me. And I constantly drifted on and off to sleep. But there I dreamt about my grandmothers. They were with me, we talked. And so that is my first memory of being with them, in my dreams.
Wow. So these first 2 weeks, the only reason that you know you've been being they were teaching you to walk again and all these things is because it was on video.
Yeah.
If not for this video, you have no access to these memories as of now. Thank you for sharing that. Now I have a couple of questions just so we can really understand some details there. What exactly is an energy vortex?
It's beautiful mountains, but it's a place where you're supposed to easily access the third dimension. And it's just, Sedona is a place where they say it's increased spirituality, increased energy. That is, if you're in Arizona, you go for a lot of reasons, but other than Arizonians, people travel there just for that. The vast beauty, the red rocks, those are things you will never forget. They're very memorable. But again, the spirituality. And I've always been a godly person. I grew up Catholic schools. I graduated high school, Catholic school. So I've always believed in God, but my religion, at that point, I didn't think it was okay to welcome much spirituality. The
Interesting.
day before my accident, I had an energy reading, which normally I would not do, but I was writing about it and they offered it to me. It was something that the spa really specializes in. So I had my first ever energy reading the day before my accident, and it was so beautiful. But my first energy, they read my body, and on one side they saw a spirit, and I knew, I said out loud, that's my grandmother. Then she walked me through this beautiful energy cleansing. Again, beautiful noises and smells and the sounds and the visualization. Then they reread my energy. Then I had another spirit on my other side. So again, it just the spirituality, the energy, it just all goes together, especially in Sedona.
Mm. So you were able, the day before the accident, you were able to, for the first time, access something through your energetic sense, not just through the belief systems that you have consumed from the religious teachings. I mean, religion is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I was raised a Catholic myself, but like yourself, I had a personal sense of divisiveness between religious and spirituality, and until I came to a point that, hang on a second, it shouldn't have to be this way. And for you, it happened that way. So you had access. And when you said that, you knew, not remembering, but you knew that both of your grandmothers had really saved you in that fall. And you said this phrase about 5 minutes ago that scientifically that explains it. I think what you mean is that scientifically you should not be here. That would have been
Absolutely.
cause for death. Yeah. Wow. So
I want to say three, at least two times that day, they told my husband that I was down, like I was not going to make it. The ambulance, they knew that he was a first responder, so they talked to him after they took my body to the helicopter. They told him, we don't expect her to make it. When he got to the hospital, he saw me in this weird position. He thought I was dead. Like it was just, again,
hmm,
it's just
yeah.
all.
Yeah, like you said, your body was broken and your head had hit the rocks, maybe not just once. So, Amanda, how much do you know about what you had, which was traumatic brain injury? Can you tell us what that is?
I have not asked many questions. I just kind of take it as I need to know it. But traumatic brain injuries, it's when there is a deficit in my brain. So they have done scans and they can see that there is a little part missing. And it affects everybody differently. But the, and again, the level, I don't know the right word, but I know that mine was pretty serious, and a lot of people don't recover well. Like when I left the hospital after a month, I remember consciously asking, when can I drive? When can I work? And can I have more kids? And they said, drive, let's revisit that in a year. Work again in a year. Kids, we will see. It depends on your recovery. So it's pretty, the chances were pretty slim that I would be able to recover and live a thriving life.
Hmm. How did you feel when they told you this about driving in a year, working in a year? We'll see about kids.
I, at that point, was so determined to live my life. I was very determined just to be a mom. That's all. That's the reason why I got out of the hospital. I had this mantra. I don't know where it came from, but in the second hospital, I told myself repetitively, fake it till you make it. And it still rings true. Like I was going to do anything I could to get out of there and get home with my daughter.
Wow.
So that was my driving force always.
There's so many, that phrase, fake it till you make it. People, obviously, as human beings, we've sort of like, it's a pun. It started as a pun, but there's so much truth in it when it comes to application in real life. And for you, what did fake it till you make it look like in your everyday life after the hospital?
I I think that outwardly I didn't share, and this probably isn't a good thing, but I was just on the outside being as strong as possible. I wanted to be able to get my daughter dressed. I couldn't even dress myself. I had to sit in a shower chair. I couldn't do that kind of stuff, but I wanted to give her a bath. I wanted to get her ready for preschool. So I was going to do anything I could to be the mom I wanted to be.
Hmm. That's it's. You say it's probably not a good thing. I say that it is amazing because there is this concept where our highest self, our true north of who we really are and what we're really capable of, and I think in the miracle of your healing, that's what really helped is that you were able to access and embody your highest self. the best that you can be, even though at this point in time there are obstacles such as your recovery and what it's done to your physical body. But see, the concept of the highest self and the true north is in the spirit, and it's in the heart, and it's even somewhere in partly in our mind. And so it's really got nothing to do with the physical body. They say, even Deepak Chopra says that the mind itself, the holistic mind, is a composition of your spirit, your mind, and your body. And therefore, when you choose to access the highest self, then everything else follows. I think for you, that may have been the case. The body is not at its peak, so therefore you chose something within you that is at its peak, and that is really the mom that you wanted to be, and the woman that you wanted to be. So, and it worked. So let's look at time frames, Amanda. How long did it take?
So I came home, I want to say mid-August or the end of August. I I remember September. So a month later, I couldn't drive yet, but I read the gospel at church. And that's what I had always done, a few times a week, but I was ready. I was nervous. It's the first time I did anything like that since my fall, but I did it. In October, by Halloween, I was able to drive. I
Wow.
could drive them. I would get lost a lot, to be honest. And just going to locations I went every day for years, but it was a learning process, but I was able to drive. Um, Around that time, probably by Christmas, I cracked my vertebrae and that had it healed by itself. So that was that had a very positive impact on my life. I was able to travel. My family, my husband, my daughter, and I went to Italy. And then probably a year later, I got a job. I became a content writer for Tony Robbins Masterminds, and I don't even know why I applied, but I just felt like I was ready to do something. And those masterminds are only one weekend a month. So it was a week. I worked for about a week a month, and that was very helpful in my brain recovery. And so from that, I want to say 8 to 10 months later, I got a full-time job, and it was a job that I loved. And I was the director of publicity for a national communications firm where I think I managed maybe 15 people. We had a lot of clients. And from there, I launched my own PR firm.
Mm.
So I just stumbled upon it naturally or not on purpose, but it led me to this great road of the ultimate recovery for my brain. My brain, sometimes if I don't sleep well, I forget words I stumble upon. Sometimes it's harder for me to process certain things, my brain. But ultimately, if you and I met in a grocery store, you would never know that I was recovering from a brain injury.
That's exactly what I was thinking then. May I ask you, what did you do for a job or for a passion or for your business before the fall?
I had just, I was a writer. So I was writing for local magazines, I was writing for Huffington Post. I did some appearances on my local TV stations just for as a contributor. But I just started getting more serious with public relations again. And that's what I've been a publicist forever. I'm 40 now, so I've been doing this since I graduated college. But I just brought on my fourth client, and it was very new. But I just was freelancing, so at my fall, I had four clients I was managing their publicity for.
Hmm. The reason I ask Amanda is because you've just told us about the endeavors that you chose to take on a few months after the fall, like content writing for Tony Robbins Mastermind, which is 1 week every month, and then eventually doing some more similar work, content writing, and then doing your PR company. And before that, it was also quite similar. And this sounds like this is your natural gift, your passion. And the reason I ask is because in relation to traumatic brain injury, like you mentioned, it affects people differently, and it's the level of potential recovery is different for everyone. But there is a concept in quantum science which has now been proven to be true, which is the neuroplasticity of our brain. So in the old days, we used to believe in science that our brain cells do get diminished, and we kill them as we, use recreational drugs or drink alcohol, or even as we age. It just diminishes its capacity. But it's now completely the opposite, is that the more that you use your brain, the neuroplasticity allows the brain to expand, to grow, to nurture and potentially heal itself. And for you, what I see in what you've done is that you were able to, well, first of all, the determination to keep what's in your heart, which is to be a mom for your little girl. And but then the brain itself had sort of, it's like a cardio. You've given it so much cardio using the things that you love doing, content creation, writing for people, and just and so I can visualize how it was healing itself over the course of 12 months. Would you say that would have been the case?
Absolutely. And again, I think that it was estimated, or I remember it being estimated that after a year after my accident is the best my brain would be. And trust me, a year after, that is not where I wanted my brain to stop growing. But I started working, and that evolution of working after trauma has improved my, what you just said, the brain capacity so much.
Mm.
And after my accident, I co-authored a book. I'm trying to finish my solo book. I thought that I always promised God in the second hospital, I would share my story with anybody who would listen. So I took that as I should help people with brain injuries or people struggling, or there's so many different areas that I could have focused on. But at the end of the day, I'm the best at PR. Like that's really what I'm all about, whether I try it to do something else or not. So
Yeah, it's getting connected to your natural gifts and honoring your natural gifts. You used the word working. You said working really helped you. I guess for the purpose of our audience, is what I want to convey is that um, working, yes, but what Amanda did is that, there's a saying where if you're doing what you love doing, you won't have to work a day in your life. And I think that's what she was doing. She wasn't doing anything that's going to give her more stress, but instead nurturing and cultivation of her best abilities. And that was the miracle of your healing.
I love that. And I'm going to touch on when I got home originally, I had all of these different workbooks and programs on my iPad that the doctor suggested. And it was essentially doing my preschool's homework, crossword puzzles, basic paragraphs or spelling. And I couldn't do them for the longest time. And I would cry when my 4-year-old could do a crossword puzzle that I could not figure out.
Hmm.
And so that's interesting that you said that stuff was so hard for me for a little bit of time, but somehow I was able to thrive more doing.
Yeah, because you weren't interested in it. Your heart wasn't in it, and so
Right.
you're exerting the effort of, oh, I have to do this, but it's not. So it. What we're talking about here is the miracle of healing. I mean, I've heard so many people, they have been told, you're never gonna walk again after that accident, and then 12 months, 18 months, they're walking and they've just created an empire. I was told when I was 36 years old that I had a patellofemoral osteoarthritis degenerative disease that wasn't going to get better, only going to get worse. And a couple of years after that, I had been in the peak of my health. I started to do pole dancing, and I was just I tripled my strength. Like it's it's about you told me about this about when before we started the series, Amanda, about listening to your body, because I think that you did a lot of that. So tell me about listening to your body.
So I mentioned I believe I've always been more in tune with my body, physically and mentally. I think maybe before my accident, I kind of lost that touch for a few years. But then my accident, like falling 40 feet, you really get into a place where you have to listen to your body. That's the only chance of survival. And I think I focused on, like, I knew that I needed sunlight. I
Mm.
knew that I needed tons of water, and then the vitamins I took, and those were, I still believe those were essential in my recovery, and they were never prescribed. Nobody told me to do it. I just knew that that's what I needed. And water, again, they say so much water. I think that water plays such a role in my body healing.
Yeah, so powerful. I think that we don't talk enough about these essentials, like you said, like they weren't even necessarily prescribed. You just knew. You just knew you had a body connection. You can feel it, and and that's what miracles are made of, aren't they? Um, that true connection. Amazing. So how do you make the world brighter and shinier now, being the Amanda that you are? Tell us about your business.
Well, first, I want to tell you that I'm pregnant, and today I'm 19 weeks pregnant with a little boy. So, and that's always been so important to me, but it is truly a miracle. So, that I am just focused on, so much of me is love and growth and my family. For business, I I co-authored a book. I'm still trying to finish my book. I feel like I have so much to share with the world. But I started a PR firm a few months ago, and I just have some great clients. At the end of the day, I am happiest getting people in, with publicity. That is what I love. Somehow that's what I'm the best at. So I focus on clients who are doing something positive in the world to some capacity. And that is what we do.
Hmm. Creating intergenerational transformation, isn't it?
Yes.
Amazing. Amanda, this has been a beautiful, beautiful time for me. Talking about accessing energetic presence, talking about believing and knowing what's within you, and talking about what miracle healing is really made of and how simple it has to come down to, and nothing what I call fancy schmancy. It's about just being you. So I thank you so much. My final question to you before we say goodbye to our viewers is that. What is the one thing that someone who might be going through recovery right now that you could say to them?
I think it's so important just to trust yourself and have faith that and I know this sounds like a cliche, but God will never give you more than you can handle. Somehow you will get through this and in a better place. So trust yourself, your instincts, and listen to your body, and you are stronger than you realize.
Thank you so much. That has always been the case for me personally, and it's so true. We need to say this to ourselves each and every day so that we are connected to what's inside of us, which is the source of our divine being, of who we really are. And having you here with me today to reiterate that is a really beautiful experience. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, everybody. We will see you again in a few days for another episode of The Women Unleashed. Bye.